and welcome back to All Hitches, Nova's #1 football podcast. Coach Mason, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I was talking to my mom this week. She watches the show. She watches like the whole show. She watches it in its entirety. She was like, "Oh, I subscribed," and I watch. She watches the show. She watches the show on YouTube, which is, yeah. What a mom, huh? Big shout out
So
to
your mom is well versed in Northern Virginia football. Is that what you're telling
apparently
me?
she is now because she was like, "Oh, you're talking about the transfers, about kids being disadvantaged in certain areas." And my mom is an old hippie, so she very much is into the social justice kind of stuff. So yeah, I was yeah. She was telling me all about the stuff that she was
That's
on.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's great. I love that.
yeah.
Well, how's it going, Miss Mesa? I'm going to say hello to her right now. It's nice to know that. My mom she presses like on a lot of us, and she shares stuff. But as a fellow person who sometimes likes things that I don't read, and I share things that I don't really look at, I think my mom's just doing that. I think she's just being nice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. My mom. Well, also my mom's from Texas, where football is a thing. Where
Yeah,
football,
true.
football is a real thing. So I mean, so I remember she moved back to Texas for a little while, and I went to go visit her, and a really small town, gigantic football stadium, and the places like that on Friday nights, the town shuts down, and everybody goes to the game. Everybody in the town goes to the game. Where yeah. So small town. I mean, well, Texas football in general. I mean, we've seen those like mega stadiums, right, where they hold
Right,
30,000
right.
people. But yeah, so yeah, my mom has always been a big football fan, and like I said, she listens to the show in their entirety. So I'm sure she's well caught up on Northern Virginia football.
I mean, not surprising. Everything's bigger and better in Texas, they say. Everything's bigger and better in Texas. Now, let me ask you this. Speaking of, actually, coincidentally, 'cause I just had it for dinner last night, so I want to ask you this. What's the best, in your opinion? And this means a lot asking you because you are a guy, California guy, New Mexico guy, Texas guy. I'm asking you about Mexican food, Tex-Mex, Mexican food here in Nova. What are some of your favorite spots? Because you're a guy. Not a lot of people can say they've been in New Mexico, California, and Texas.
Here,
Growing up.
I've yet to have any Mexican food here in Northern Virginia. I have not.
You haven't had any?
I take that back. I've had some like the Peruvian chicken.
Well,
Uh,
that's different. That's different, sir.
so I mean, other than that, no. What I've noticed I hear is a lot more Central American food I hear than there is Mexican
There's a
food.
lot.
A lot
And
more.
I love Peruvian chicken. And I
Yeah.
love Peruvian chicken.
Now, oddly enough, the thing that we have been looking for that my wife absolutely loves is carne asada fries.
Fries.
So like French fries with carne mixed in with like carne asada and salsa. They're called carne asada fries. And so,
Okay.
so it's carne asada mixed in with like not just the meat, but like salsa and stuff like that. Cheeses
Now,
with a French fry.
okay. Because one thing I do like, it's not that. It's not that exactly. It's kind of like a stew, right?
Uh,
Is if you go to a Peruvian restaurant, I like the lomo saltada where they have the steak and the rice, the onions, the peppers, and then the French fries.
oh, okay, okay.
That's one of my favorites.
No, the carne asada fries come like in you get them in a good old Mexican spot. Comes in the styrofoam container, and it's just fries on the bottom, and then just carne asada and all that kind of stuff on top. And my wife, my wife is a huge fan of that. Also, the other thing she's always looking for because when we lived in Mexico, she got used to it all the time was a really good breakfast burrito. A good not the McDonald's breakfast burrito they have, but
No,
like a
I like Anita's. I'm an Anita's guy.
a New Mexican founded in New Mexico over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, do they
That's
have,
a Nova staple, a Nova institution is Anita's. I'll die on that hill.
do, do they have a good breakfast burrito? Do they have a good one?
Oh, fantastic! You never come down to our neck of the woods down in our hallway. Every once in a while, we've had them over there.
Oh, I did not know that they were Anita's.
Yeah,
I just thought it was run of the mill breakfast burrito. I did not realize it was
I
Anita's.
ain't no run of the mill breakfast burrito, but that's Anita's.
I didn't know. It doesn't say it on it.
I think it might say it on the wrapper. Maybe it doesn't. It just says cheese or whatever flavor it is. You're right. It doesn't say
Yeah.
Anita's on the
And,
wrapper.
and in California now, on every street corner, there's a taco vendor. Like they just set up. They just set up tent out there, making tacos, stuff like that. It's
Well, I feel like we have gotten to that place, even here in Nova, where the different fads, right? You remember about a decade ago, it was the yogurt, the frozen yogurt fad.
good old froyo, huh?
Froyo fad. About 7 years ago, 6 years ago, was the burger fad. Remember, there was a new burger joint
Yeah.
everywhere. And just a few years ago, I think we peaked with the taco, the street taco fad,
Yeah.
right? That was a big thing. And then now I'm kind of waiting the next fad, see what the next big.
Did you guys get a food truck fad out here? Where food truck they'd have food truck nights every place.
I think so. Yeah, for sure.
Oddly enough, there are a few schools in California. Laguna Beach High School. They stopped having a snack bar, and they would just have food trucks come, and they would be the snack bar, and they would, however they worked out the money with, like, if they got a percentage or if they paid for the space, and that's how they did it. But
I like that in terms of an audience. I think it's better. It's better than the crappy Domino's pizza of I think some of these schools serve. Right?
There's nothing like when you're hungry, getting a Paisano's pizza at the snack bar. Let me tell you something. I like Paisano's pizza.
I mean, yeah, Paisanos. I mentioned the other day on social media. I said they should do the Chad Ricardo pizza slice and then Mr. DMV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's solid for what it is. But it'd be nice to have a nice food truck. At the games, doing some nice steak and cheeses. Cheesesteaks, something like that. Maybe some tacos.
Maybe some tacos. Yeah.
Maybe donuts. Maybe you get good old. What donuts would you get? Best donuts in Nova, my friend.
Let me ask you, during a late fall winter game, a warm donut during a football game,
and some coffee or hot chocolate.
Yeah.
Oh man. Let me ask you, what's the best? Since you've been here, I'm going to see right or wrong. Best donut in Nova.
Come on, it's Texas donut.
I already hinted at it earlier. Nothing. They're always bigger and better in Texas. Texas donuts. We brought it around to Texas, didn't we?
We did bring it back around to Texas.
Texas donuts. I mean, what a legacy to have everything just bigger and better. Speaking of legacies, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's many legacies bigger than that of Coach Hansen that he left behind at Yorktown, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Hall of Fame coach, got his 300th win plus this past season.
I know we try to research it; it's hard to find. I'm curious where he's at in the all-time wins record in Northern Virginia or Virginia in general, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 300 is a lot of victories.
It's a lot of wins, man. It's a lot of wins and a lot of games.
Yeah.
And so he retired, right? Kind of catching people up and people who had been in a coma for the last few months in Nova. But he retired, and they opened up the job and they did some interviews, and we kind of from afar we said it then, before we knew, people were in the know were just kind of like, well, I don't think they're going to keep it in the family. They're going to get Yorktown's a special place. They're probably going to keep it in the family.
Well, and you always talk about how Arlington is a close knit community, and I imagine that they want to keep that with and you're going to hear during the interview Kim talking about kind of the small town feel of Arlington, Virginia, right?
Yep, and so for sure, so they did. They kept it in the family. Coach Alec Hicks, the longtime defensive coordinator, right? Longtime Yorktown, student, Yorktown coach, Yorktown teacher. Yeah. Yorktown played for the team, right? Yeah. Played for Coach Hansen once upon a time.
Yeah.
Grew up there. Grew up an Arlingtonian.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so it was kind of a natural fit. I think it was a natural fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And keep that legacy alive and to keep that going.
Yeah. Well, it was pretty fascinating learning about it.
So Coach Hicks, we reached out to him and he said he'd love to be on the show and we brought him on and here we are. Let's get to that interview with Coach Alec Hicks. All right. Well, joining us now, we got Coach Alec Hicks, Yorktown's new head coach. Coach, congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on your show. This is an awesome opportunity.
All right. Yeah, we appreciate you coming on tonight and joining us. Let's get right into it. 99 Yorktown grad, is that right?
That's right. I graduated in 99, so my last season was 98.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And we played West Potomac in the playoffs that year. Howerton was one of the coaches over there, so he's kind of retired and gone. But Willie Pyle was the quarterback. He, I think, went on to Virginia Tech and then played for the Lions for a year or two. So that was
And
cool.
and did you grow up in Arlington? Did you grow up there, or did?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Arlington. My dad actually worked at Yorktown. He taught art. He coached football for a year or two in the 60s when they kind of first opened for Jesse Meeks. And when I was a little kid, my first intro into football, really, my dad was the announcer for all the varsity games. So he'd go up to announce. My mom would just drop me off with $5. I'd run around, watch the game. And those guys were my idols, man. I just remember watching all those football games, like hang any clippings up from Yorktown High School in my room as a kid. So it was just one of those things, like it was my dream to play varsity football at Yorktown High School growing up.
Wow, the prodigal son
Okay.
returns.
Yeah, something like that for sure.
That's awesome. So 99 grad, and you're a teacher in the building.
Yeah, I teach English. I've been in Arlington County for the past 20 years. I did a little stint in between, like I took a year off of college, and I was a special ed assistant in the county, and I coached freshman football that year also. So it was like my first taste of coaching, and I loved it. So I went back to school, and I knew I was going to come back to teach and be a coach one day.
Yeah, not a lot of English teachers in coaching football. I'll tell you, I could probably count them on one hand the amount of people who I know who've read some anthologies and also coach football. Not a lot of, because English was my minor, oddly enough, and I remember being in that class. Yeah, and but I know coach, been coaching for a while. Not a lot of English teachers coaching football though.
No, you got a lot of history teachers, a lot of PE teachers.
Yeah.
And everyone asked me, they're like, how are you going to be able to grade papers and coach at the same time? And I said, well, when you're doing the defense, you're doing a lot of stuff. I mean, now it's more of a year-round job, right? So I got to balance it out in the spring. But I was able to manage in the fall, so I know it's a couple more hours on the day. But like you guys said, I'm going to grind it out.
Yeah. So you're following a legend, right? I mean, so let's get. I mean, you're following a guy who started there in '85, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, 85.
85. You played for him. I mean, do you feel a little bit of pressure following something like that? I mean, I know you've been with him for a long time, but I know following a guy who essentially been. He's coaching kids. He's coaching grandkids, right? He's coaching the dad, the parent, and the grandchild at this point. So following him, do you feel any kind of pressure on that?
Yeah, honestly, I don't feel any pressure with it. And I think the reason why I don't feel any pressure with it is because, I kind of grew up in the area. Like you said, I played for him. He was the guy that kind of reached out and got me into coaching when I got out of college and when I was coaching freshman ball. And I've learned a lot from him. Like, coaching for 20 years, I moved up from, I coached freshman 1 year. I was a JV defensive coordinator off varsity D-line coach. Moved up to special teams coordinator for 3 years. And then I went to D.C. for the past, 13 years. And during that time, I coached with Bruce, who's been a mentor to me. Wayne Hogwood, who coached at Wakefield for a number of years, was very successful over there. He was a defensive coordinator when I was a special teams coordinator. And we had lots of conversations, even when he was at Wakefield. And then the other guys I got around me, Mike Colossos has been coaching at Yorktown for 17 years, or maybe 18 now. Evan Ruffner's been there for 15, and Tom Norton's been there for 12. So we're all hanging around. We've got a wealth of knowledge over there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just one of those things that with those guys around me, I don't really feel much pressure because I know they're some of the best coaches in the area, and we work really well together. And I think that's one thing I gotta kind of praise Bruce for is that he's always had a staff that never really stepped on each other's toes and respected each other. And we're going to go forward with that, and together we're going to be successful. So it's one of those things where you got good guys around you that you trust. I don't think you feel the pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always feel like Yorktown's one of those. I mean, outside looking in, I'm a Nova guy, and Yorktown, Madison. There's a bunch of schools, so not a bunch, but there's a handful of schools that you see that, in my opinion, that I see that where I look at the staffs and I'm like, man, almost all those guys, are alums from that school. It's a special thing.
Oh no, it's awesome, and you got to give credit to the school. It's a really good school, and you got to give credit to Bruce for kind of reaching out to the guys that played before. And I hope to kind of continue doing that. There's a guy coaching freshmen right now. I don't know if he's going to move up or if he's going to keep coaching freshmen, but he graduated. He played for me. He was an offensive lineman, Mark Lynn. And so that's kind of one of the newer guys that's younger, but a Yorktown alumni. And then there are a couple other guys in the area that are kind of interested in coaching as well. So it's just one of those things when you have a good experience playing football, I think, at the school, you want to kind of come back and give back because you appreciate what you got, you know? I mean, I give Bruce a lot of credit for the way he coached me and just being a personable kind of guy and helped me out. And I give a lot of credit to the other guys that coached me, you know. Tyrone Bird was my defensive coordinator. John Kustafikis was my linebacker coach. All those guys. Kustafikis graduated from Yorktown. Tyrone graduated from Yorktown. And it's one of those things that it's like they just keep passing it on. And I think that's how you really continue having a positive culture in the program, you know, and in the school.
Yeah.
We got some tradition going on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, as you say that, you know, and we were talking off camera, but I just got a text from, you know, new Woodson coach, Coach McBride, who's also a former. And I'll tell you what, that speaks highly. Just in you look in one cycle, you got 2 head coaches coming out of a program.
Yeah, and Joe's a very dedicated guy. He's been a great guy to, you know, I coached with him. He was a quarterback, and I was coaching the defensive side of the ball, but we'd have conversations. It's tough losing him. We were excited to kind of have him around, but he got the job before this job even opened up, I think. I think Woodson was one of the first jobs that opened, right? Yeah. You know, he's the guy for the job. The other thing Joe and I have in common is we both went to Randolph-Macon. And it's, you know, Yorktown to Randolph-Macon, and now we're both head coaches. So, you know, it speaks numbers for both Yorktown and Randolph-Macon, I believe.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good football. It's good football at Randolph-Macon.
Yeah, it is. And that's my half-brother played at Randolph-Macon, too. He actually was a Madison guy. My dad lived in Vienna, so it's kind of funny how that works.
Yeah, my son's a W&J guy. We played you guys in the playoffs.
Yep.
This year, so I was watching closely.
It was, yeah.
So when you're following, I know you're retaining a lot of the staff, but when you're following a guy like that, I always wonder, do you kind of try to keep things as they were because you guys have been pretty successful for a lot of years, or are there some things you're going to see yourself where you might make some tweaks here and there and kind of move the program not in a different direction, but just kind of take some turns and move some things, move the furniture a little bit around.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, I was defensive coordinator for the past 13 years, and I realized that, you know, in getting this job, the guys around me, you know, I want to put them up and give them a more stake in the game, if I could say it. And so for moving the furniture around, you know, we moved the coaching staff around a little bit. Ruffner used to be Evan Ruffner used to be the head JV coach and skills guy, coach for the varsity. And so we're moving him. He's going to move over to defense. He actually played linebacker at Yorktown, and he played linebacker at Shenandoah. And so, you know, defense comes naturally to him. And I always feel that, you know, when you coach on one side of the ball for a number of years, you learn the other side, right?
Right, absolutely.
He's been looking at defenses forever, trying to figure out, you know, how they're going to try to stop our offense. Now he's going to be on the other side of the ball going, oh, I know what messes these offenses up a little bit, right?
Oh, okay.
Tom Norton, who used to be the offensive line coach, he's going to be the offensive coordinator now. Mike Colossos used to be the defensive line coach. He's going to be the offensive coach now. And he actually also played at Shenandoah and Yorktown.
Okay.
And he was an offensive lineman. He was a guard. So they all know their stuff. They're eager to kind of be successful and have the opportunity to go out there and make the calls on Friday nights. And I'm going to go to special teams. And the reason I'm going to special teams is I'm a firm believer that's where you kind of cross the T's and dot the I's. There's some opportunities in there to win some ball games and make some changes. I mean, if you watch a lot of the pro games and a lot of the college playoff games, you know, there are a lot of big special teams plays that change the outcome of those games. Yeah. And the other reason I really think that going to special teams for me is important as a head coach is, you know, it's the first step on the field for a lot of these young guys.
Yeah.
And it's one of those times where you get to really impact, you know, them and really teach them the culture, teach them your expectations. And I think if you're, I heard a guy say it before when I was a kid, lifting weights, trying to be big. He said, have you ever seen a guy with a big chest and small legs? I said, yeah, I think I've seen that. He goes, have you ever seen a guy with big legs and a small chest? I was like, no, I don't think so. He goes, that's because if you're squatting, your whole body's going to be big. And it's one of those things where I think it's that if you're really putting that effort in on the special teams, you know, it's tough work in there. Kids really got to want to play to get out there. But if you're putting that work in there and you're rewarding those guys for going out there and making big plays, that's going to just kind of go up as they get to be juniors and seniors, or if they're a junior starting out there, that's going to give them some sort of, something to kind of grind on, right?
Yeah.
To build on.
Yeah, so we actually we interviewed the special teams coach from Long Beach City College, Juca in California, that I'm friends with. And the one thing he talks about as a special teams coordinator, he was like, it's the only coach on the staff that works with both sides of the football. Because he works with offensive guys, he works with defensive guys. He was like, I get to touch them all. He was like, I get to touch all of them, and be able to. He was like, besides head coach, I'm the other coach who actually is a coach. He was like, the only guys I don't coach are the offensive linemen. He was like, I coach the running backs, the DBs, the linebackers, the receivers. They're all with me, learning through specials. And the other thing he talks about, he was like, a lot of kids think that you can't get film playing specials. And he was like, that's absolutely not true. He was like, you go down, make explosive play on a kickoff return, you throw a big block. That absolutely, that's big time film you can put out there. So I think, seeing what you're doing, right, valuing special teams is something that sometimes unfortunately gets overlooked. But yeah, yeah.
But you're totally right. We had a guy, John Pius. He was at William and Mary for a number of years. Then he went to Wisconsin, the transfer portal. I think he might even be going to the NFL Combine here next year. But he was a guy that he was kind of overlooked. He didn't have a lot of big colleges looking at him. And I think what really set him apart were his highlights of his special teams. He was on kickoff, and that guy was just he just cut through everybody. It was no problem for him. He was making tackles almost every game, 2 or 3 on kickoff. And it just looked like you could tell the difference in his abilities over everybody else's. He was a true D1 player out there, aggressive, had great angles, great tackling technique, and I think that's what really got him the offer at William and Mary and set him apart from some of the other guys. So I think you're absolutely right, Coach, about how you really do get some film on special teams, and they can tell if you're loafing or if you're going hard, right? You might get film or you might get bad film. You don't want to have the bad film on you out there.
Yeah, and in fact, I had a buddy. He was a defensive coordinator, so he had punt return, and every week he'd be like, I can find 2 guys on punt who don't want to be there that I know for a fact we can go right through them and get it. He was like, you can just tell. You can tell when guys they stand out on punt. And he was like, I can find 2 every week who just don't want to be there or are giving, and it could be a kid like you said who's like, I should be playing more. So I think this is kind of I should be starting on this side, starting on that side. So, they kind of don't give the effort they do. And he was like, I can find them every week. And he was like, every week they stand out, and we can go through them and get a block, which is huge.
Yeah, and that's why when you're a special teams coach, you really got to reward those guys and make them know that whatever they do out there can affect the ball game. And you can go out there and make the play that wins the game, or you can go out there and make the play that doesn't. Right?
Yeah,
you give up that
absolutely.
kick. And I've had some of those. That doesn't feel good when you get that kick blocked, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I like the head coach doing special teams. I'm a fan. We've talked about this before, Mesa. I know, in Northern Virginia, certain coaches, right? Pannoni, is big on, letting the offense do their thing, letting defense, have a hand in it. But special teams, that's, he focuses on special teams. So I do like that from a head coach that does that. I know Coach Van Acker was big on special teams when we were over there as well. And now going into the off season now, right? And you guys started your workouts after when you guys got back from winter break?
We're trying to, but with all the snow days and the ice stuff, and it's been tough getting that going. We've gotten in there 2 times already. We had the day off, but we're gonna get out there, and as soon as the ice melts off these roads, we're gonna start running around a little bit too, because our track is frozen over, and every other sport in the whole school is working out inside. So just trying to find that time and space, it's difficult, man. It's a fight.
Yeah, it is. It is tough. So we kind of get along. You guys, and I know we had Coach Richards, another new coach, right, in the Liberty a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about some of the things that they're trying to do in the off season. Probably not right now because, like you said, the weather and stuff. But competitions with other schools, talking about 7-on-7s. What's some of your philosophies on some of the off season stuff when you start getting with other programs?
I think there's kind of a ratio you want to put in there, right? I don't know if you want to put too much stock into the 7-on-7s. I think competition with other schools is good, but I think the most important thing is really build your team, do some team building events, working out together as much as you can. I mean, I think 7-on-7 is great. I think it's really great for your quarterback and your skill guys. But a lot of the times you're leaving your line out there too. So I think it's important to do your 7-on-7. But also I think it's one of those things where it's like really keeping those kids in shape, keeping them together as a unit and focused on each other and, helping each other out together. When we get out there in the fall, we need all 55 or 60 guys, whatever it is that we dress out. They got to be working together. So if they can't work together outside of the football team, it's going to make it difficult to work together on the field. So I really feel like the most important thing, especially for my first year as a head coach, is just to make sure that they know that I'm invested in the culture and that I want I want us to be really working together and focused as a team, and not putting one person above another. With that being said, we'll be doing our weight training. A lot of our good athletes actually play other sports. They play lacrosse. Our lacrosse program's been wonderful. Coach Beer's awesome over there. They've been winning a lot of games. And one of our quarterbacks 2 years ago, he was a lacrosse star, Hudson Green. So he ended up going and playing lacrosse. But he was our quarterback, right? So it's one of those things that we really value. Some of the kids that play other sports. Baseball has a couple of our students, our football players. And so it's one of those things where it's like we got to stay together as much as possible. I'm going to give the kids as many opportunities as they can. I think there's some big man camps too that I'd like to get involved with, to get the linemen out there and just having fun and competing a little bit. And I think it's really important just kind of put all those opportunities out there for them, but also have a lot of opportunities in the school with our team where we're kind of building that culture a little bit, building relationships with each other and just focused on having fun.
So you brought up culture and Yorktown being a successful program. What makes the Yorktown culture special? What are the things that you love, or what are some things that you could talk about, kind of the culture of Yorktown football?
Well, we're old school. We don't have headphones. We don't have any guy up at the top box.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
You guys didn't, yeah. So we're like, I think we're one of the only teams in the northern region that doesn't have headphones or a guy in the box. But one thing that's really changed that with iPads on the sideline.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like you've got your view right there. We've got some guys that are on the staff still. Coach Colossos is amazing sitting there and just being, hey, he'll call kids over after a play. He'll walk up to the coaches, be like, hey, I don't think we're not holding the contain out here. So it's one of those things. We got an eye in the sky, but it's on the sideline. And then the other thing about headphones, just not having them. I think it's important to have all the coaches down there working with the kids. That way, you can talk to your position group. You can talk to your guys. And I don't know, after coaching for 20 years without headphones, I think when I was a younger coach, I was like, why don't we have headphones? But you start winning games and you're going, do we really need them? How much of a difference does it really make? And I'm sure some teams are more efficient using their headphones and communicating than others. But I don't know, we're kind of old school in that way. I'd also say, we have a lot of kids that, like myself, I grew up in the area. I came back to move and, live and teach here. And I think there are a lot of families, even if they don't if they graduate from Yorktown, they like the area. They do whatever they can to kind of move back. And then you have these kids that are growing up, their uncle played. We had a kid, Max Troiano. His uncle was my quarterback. He was a year older than me. So it's one of those things, when you have a kid out on the field like, hey, man, I played with your uncle. And your uncle was tough. And he was like one of the better quarterbacks. I think that just kind of grows that culture a little bit and adds to it. And then the kids that are coming from outside of the school, you have a lot of people that move into Arlington. They're kind of enamored by it too, and it's kind of like an old. We've only been a school since 1962 or 61, I think. But at the same time, it has a very old feel to it, even though the school's been redone twice. So I think that's kind of what adds to the culture. And you also have a lot of people coming back. Alumni comes back to watch the games, and that's one thing that I kind of like to do as a head coach. I mean, I know we have homecoming, but homecoming always feels like it's more for the kids now. You don't have as many alumni coming back.
Yeah.
We always have a game that's like before school starts, I believe. Maybe it's the first week of school this year, but I feel like that'd be a great time to have the alumni come back and just, give them some credit for building this tradition. We wouldn't be here without those guys. They were like the building blocks of this program. So it'd be cool to have them in some respect.
Wow.
That's great. I love it, man. I love hearing some of that. I got the headphones now having someone up top. Has that also been since as far back as you remember, or is that a little bit more recent?
So Bruce Bruce told me I guess it was 1986, they got some headphones, the ones with the wires. And I think after 3 games, everyone was so frustrated with them, they just scrapped the whole situation. Because the coach up in the box felt like he wasn't being heard. The people down the field, couldn't hear the guy or weren't listening because they were so focused on the game. And he said it just doesn't fit. Like, it didn't fit his style. And he's kind of raised us all as coaches to coach without him. And I mean, I don't really notice too much of a difference. I mean, I haven't had the luxury of having some guy in my ear. I don't know if I'd like it or not. But when you're all down the sideline, you can talk to each other down there anyways.
Yeah.
One guy can stand on the defensive side. One guy can walk up and stand on the back side of the offense. I mean, you can get a lot of different angles down there and look at it. You can see if they're in the gaps, if they're head up, if they're unbalanced, you can just look. There's some tricks from coach from the sideline, right? Like you count the guys up, the receivers. You're looking always for a tight end if they're running a tight end. If they're 2 back or 1 back, some teams would always run with a full back or put them down as a stink back or H back. So it was one of those things as a coach. You just learn to look for the keys for whatever school you're playing, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And then when everyone started going spread, that made it real easy because you're either 2x2 or 2x3 or you got 2 backs back there with a pistol or something like that. So it's just one of those things that helps.
Wow. Yeah, the headphone thing, wild to me. Yeah. At least when I've called the offense, I've always liked to not be on the field just because I felt like it gave me a better chance to think for a second. Because we're on the field. Yeah,
I see that.
But yeah, because it kind of gets you away from the game. But yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Wow. And I guess when the staff has never had it, they really don't. You don't miss it because you're like, well, I mean, that's just the way we do things here.
It's like when you grow up driving manual.
Yeah.
Why do I need the automatic? I know how to drink a cup of coffee and steer and everything.
Man, I love the feel of Yorktown. I that's great stuff. And just the idea of having, I play with your uncle or I play with, I just something about that. You don't get a lot of that in Northern Virginia anymore.
No, you got a lot of people that just they're here and they move out.
Yeah.
They never come back. And it's tough. It's cool to have the people come back.
Oh, it is awesome. Now, my wife is W&L grad. My mom's W&L grad. So it's a rival. But I understand that the Arlington, kind of Arlingtonians, they kind of love Arlington, and they try to come back.
And what's funny about that, the whole W&L or Yorktown rivalry thing. When I was a kid playing, we'd always meet up it's Langston Boulevard now. It used to be Lee Highway McDonald's, and it was like before the season would start, you'd be up there. The W&L kids would be up there, and you'd be talking a little trash. And then you play each other at the end of the season. And then when basketball games came, it was like you were out there hanging out with the guys. And it was one of those things like, then you go to college, and it's like, oh, man, that guy's from W&L. You're best friends with that guy because you have Arlington in common, right? So some people take the rivalry a little bit too serious, whereas it was like a great thing for me growing up. And there are a lot of guys that I played soccer against or football against, or I watched them playing basketball at either W&L or a lot of the Wakefield guys I actually hung out with too when I was at Yorktown. But it's just one of those things, you respect the guys you play against. And if you saw, if I was playing against a guy in football and he ended up playing basketball, well, I was, deep down kind of rooting for that guy. I had respect for him. We were going head to head out there on the football field and knocking our brains out a little bit. And it's like, oh, yeah, that guy's tough. I like that guy. So I don't know. There's something said about playing football and having a rivalry like that actually you start respecting those guys even though you're really trying to beat them during the season, right?
Yeah,
sure. Yeah. Now W&L is that still Saturday? Is that a Saturday homecoming game?
I don't know if they're gonna move it back to a Friday night game. I think there's been some talk about that. We've had like a Thursday night game for 2 years, and it used to always be the last game of the season.
Right.
I'm pretty sure we actually got it back to the last game of the season this year, but I can't tell you for sure if it's going to be a Friday night or a Saturday.
Okay. That's always one of those like, my wife was telling me that she's like, it used to be a big deal. They'd have it sometimes on Saturdays, but I guess it varies.
It's always been great. This year, I think it was like the middle of the year. It was one of the hottest days on a Saturday. Maybe it was even a holiday weekend. So I think it was like the lowest attendance we've ever had, which is weird.
Oh, wow.
But some years, I remember, W&L would bring their band out. They'd sit on the sideline at Yorktown. Their whole stands would be packed. It was always like the most packed game unless we made it to the playoffs. I think we played South County once at home. That was a huge game. So it was like anytime we play W&L at home, it's nice and loud, and the county knows we're playing. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And they did a good job. They did a good job on the renovation there too. We were there, I guess 3 years ago. The opening game of the season.
Oh yeah,
When we
WNL's
saw
a
you.
beautiful field to play on. They've got the cafeteria that opens up there. I think the teacher lounge is like the third floor, so you can sit up there and watch the game if you have a teacher's clearance or whatever it is. But it's just it's a very well set up stadium. I mean, the field's actually the same setup that it's been for forever. I think the field's always been there. They just built the school up and made it a little bit more overlooking the field, which makes it pretty cool.
Is the track at Yorktown? Is it on the outside of the bleachers or is it inside the?
Yeah, so the track at Yorktown goes around the visiting side and inside the home side. So it's kind of disappointing a little bit because your home side is like so far back and the visitor side is right on top of the field. So they're actually louder at our place than it is when we're like, at Woodson. I feel like you guys are like, those bleachers go up forever, right?
Yeah.
So it's not as loud. It's tough kind of making the calls at Yorktown when it's a packed game.
Yeah, you guys now. So, kind of fast forwarding into this season, right? I mean, we talked about you guys all year, and we said you can never count. Yorktown's always hanging around, and I kept calling you guys Ric Flair. I said that's like they're like Ric Flair in a Royal Rumble. You turn your back on Ric Flair in a Royal Rumble, it's gonna hit you. And you guys you made a run 2 years ago. Right, you made a run.
Beat South Lakes and lost to West.
That's right.
Play the game.
In a close game, right? And that Westville, it was a close game, and the big upset on the undefeated South Lakes team.
That was an awesome game. I mean, we talked about it was like one of those things where you're trying to create your identity the whole season. What are you going to hang your hat on? And I think we came up with a good game plan offensively and defensively. Our kids were amped up. We lost to Langley, I think, at the beginning of the season. We had a couple losses. We lost to Marshall. We had some close losses that year. I don't think we lost a game by more than a touchdown. I could be wrong on that, but we just had some really close losses, and we just felt like our record didn't kind of show like who we were. And so going out there to South Lakes, I felt like we were a little bit overlooked, which probably helped us out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this year coming to the season, I know it was the 300, right? Coach was chasing 300. Coach, Mason and I, we talked about that. We were like, man, at some point, I'm sure that, Coach Hansen was like, all right, enough already of the 300. Because that became the story, right? And it kind of follows you along as each week. And it was a big deal. I think he got it at home, too, didn't he?
Yeah, we got it at home against Centerville, but it was like, I think, at 299, I remember people were coming down, oh, yeah, let's go. Next week, we're going to have a big celebration. It was like, you guys don't know sports at all. Like, you never tell a pitcher they got a no-hitter, right? Like, calm down. They're like, what are we going to plan for after the game? It's like, we're not planning anything. Like, you don't plan anything for that because it's not going to happen. Like, we got to let it happen. So, that was tough. It was – go ahead, Coach Mason.
No. I was going to say, you've lost a few kids this year. Is there anyone this year that you think we should look out for? Any seniors you have coming up this year that you're like,
Yeah, we got a lot of good guys coming up. I mean, first off, Brady Owens is getting a lot of looks, I think, by some schools. Yeah. So he's going to be a big part. He's a tight end. He was our long snapper. He might get some reps on the defensive side of the ball, depending on what we do. And then we got, a couple guys. This one kid, Nicky Palma, he was our guard. He's been guard since he was a sophomore.
Okay.
Sammy Kaiser, he's a receiver. He's been really good. Our backup quarterback, he was up there fighting for a spot last year, was Drew Morgan. Samson Snyder, he's going to be nice. He has a nice ball. And he played JV all last year, and he was the backup varsity quarterback as a junior. But I think, he would have started at a lot of the schools in the region last year if he was anywhere else. Gosh, I'm trying to think offhand. We've got a number of defensive guys that are coming back. Bobby.
Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh no, you're all good. I'm just kind of. I'm hurting for last names sometimes here.
Yeah.
I call some guys I call them by their last name. Some guys I call them by their first name.
2-4. 2-4s look really good, right?
Yeah, exactly. I got their numbers in my head too. Yeah. But Bobby Shea, Teddy Sennett, those guys, they were really big for us on the defensive line last year as juniors. So they're gonna be pretty nice out there. And then we got a number of guys that were sophomores that we're excited about, coming up as juniors and filling up some leadership roles as well as just juniors, stepping in there and making some plays. So we've got a number of guys that we're excited about on offense and defense across the board. And I hate naming names because I know I'm leaving some out.
Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah.
But at the same time, just off the top of my head, those are guys kind of that I felt like kind of made an impact last year. And I think they'll make an impact this year as well.
I'm sure when we hit you up for the preseason preview, I'm sure you'll have all their names ready to go to get.
I'll have them all written down. I'll rip the whole roster off for you then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know. I mean, and I'm looking forward to watching you guys this year because I know you can never sleep on a Yorktown squad. I mean, in my opinion, and I told some of my friends who were in the Liberty this, I said, and I know WNL's kind of made a resurgence. Believe me, I hear about it here. My wife and her sisters are all WNL. They're all WNL grads.
They were great the last 2 years.
But it's still Yorktown. Like, in my opinion, right? There's certain, Yorktown still runs through Yorktown, and from a longevity standpoint, right? And I look forward to seeing you guys play this year and seeing what you guys are going to do.
Well, I appreciate it. I hope to continue the success. That's one of the things. You asked if I was nervous filling the shoes. I'm not super nervous filling the shoes, but if the first game goes wrong and the second game goes wrong, that might be a different story, right? But I hope this year I can bridge the gap this year. Like I said, I've got some great guys around me. I think we've been kind of resilient. One thing Bruce always said is you never want to play against Yorktown after a loss because we're going to be coaching harder. We're going to be looking at what we did wrong, and we're going to be getting better and making those corrections. And I think that's one thing that I'm going to carry on as well is that, we're not even a team that you should lose to. We're not going to treat that as a win. If you lose to a team, you just got to go back to the drawing board and say, all right, how are we going to fix this? What kids are we going to use to kind of maybe mix in here a little bit, or do we need to tweak things that we're doing to make us better? So, I think I've learned a lot of lessons as far as being a defensive coordinator. I've seen a lot of different offenses, so I'm excited to kind of help out my new defensive and offensive coordinator, just kind of like install the right stuff and, be kind of like a consultant at the same time, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Coach, and we appreciate you coming on today and kind of talking about the season. And of course, I've been excited, and you guys are one of the first ones. I mean, I tell you what, Yorktown, when we started this show last year, Yorktown and a couple other schools were one of the first schools to kind of get info to us. Nobody wanted to give any info to us. And I don't blame them. Right? They're like, who are these hacks? No. But it ended up working out, and so you guys have always been cool with us, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you guys are doing is great, and you're giving some love to the Northern Region football. I mean, who doesn't like that?
Yeah. Right.
I wish we had a show like this when I was playing, man. It was like you look at the box score in the Washington Post after the game. Did I make enough tackles to get in there? Yep, I got in there. I didn't get in there. So
true.
It's time for sure, but it's awesome. So thanks for what you're doing, guys.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it, Coach.
No problem.
And good luck to you guys too. You're gonna have a blast, Coach McBride. Yeah, he's fun to coach with. So,
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure the watching community is gonna be happy to hear that. Well, thanks, Coach. Coach Hicks, new head coach at Yorktown. Wish you well, and we'll see you soon.
All right, sounds good, guys.
All right, Coach. Take care. All right. Well, that was a fantastic interview with Coach Hicks. I loved it. I mean, some of that small town feel, right? It was all over the place.
Yeah, which I don't think here in a major metropolitan area you get too often, right? You get too often with that. And no headsets.
Our minds were blown.
Didn't work at 86. Get them out of here. No headsets.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's my kind of guy. I could have worked for Coach Hansen. School technology.
Yeah. So just yelling at each other on the sideline. I guess no inappropriate comments are made on the Yorktown sideline, unlike they may be made every now and then on the headset.
I mean, there were times where I did laugh sometimes, right? I mean, a relatively small staff a few times, and you're wearing your headset, and it's like, hey, Coach, what do you think? And it's like, hey, Coach, I'm 3 feet away from you. I'm right here.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure everyone can relate to that sometimes. So I kind of get it at times. but I love it. Not having anybody up top.
Anyway, on top, everybody in the field coaching the kids, which is an interesting take for sure.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Yeah, yeah. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
that's great. And just the small, like you said, being able to coach, say, hey, I coached your uncle.
Yeah,
Your uncle was a tough son of a gun. You better be a tough son of a gun too, buddy.
yeah,
Right? I
yeah.
love that small town feel.
Yeah, so when I was in Mexico, I coached at Rio Rancho High, and it was very much the same kind of thing. It was outside Albuquerque, it was kind of a suburb of Albuquerque, but everybody knew about the team. Everyone came to the game. It was pretty awesome. Being part of a community like that, where they're kind of tied into that, where if you're there, if you live in Arlington and you grow up in the Yorktown district, right, you're looking to play for Yorktown from the time you're a kid, which is pretty cool.
Right. And that's it, right? You grow up and looking at that New England helmet, the old school New England Patriots logo, right?
Yeah. But I think that kind of speaks to why they're so successful, right? To have that kind of tradition means something. I mean, even today's day and age, it does mean something.
Yeah, no, really. You talk about culture. People use these words a lot, right? Culture and tradition and that kind of stuff. They really have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think sometimes, words like that get used a little too loosely. But it's the real McCoy there.
Well, for sure. That was awesome talking to them.
It was a good guy. Wish him the best. Can't wait to see them and do their field. Maybe we'll see them at some 7-on-7s.
Yeah.
Coach Hampton, we would see him at live at the St. James sometimes.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see them at a 7-on-7 or two this off season.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, buddy. Well, time to go eat some Mexican, buddy. That's what I'm gonna go do. I'm gonna go have a freaking. I'm gonna go to some guapo. I like guapos. You need to try guapos. It's pretty good.
Guapos, okay.
Yeah, I'm a guapos guy. Guy.
Okay.
And I think they're kind of a big chain, but kind of a local chain.
Okay. Kind of like why can't I think Santini?
Well, you mentioned Paisanos a second ago.
Paisanos, kind of like Santini's, right?
Santini's, although more of a celebrity guy here at heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, well, enjoy those fajitas, and we'll see you guys next time on All Hitches.
See ya.